Constitution is basically a written set of laws in the government system for the United States as we know it. And yeah, first thing we're going to cover is important clauses, which is listed. All of these clauses were listed in the Declaration of Independence and signed by these important people in this picture. So first clause we're going to cover is the Supremacy Clause, which was in Article 6. And it is basically saying that federal laws are over state laws like a father is over his son. Next thing we're going to cover is the Necessary and Proper Clause, or as I like to call it, the Elastic Clause, which was in Article 1, Section 8. And it's basically saying that laws are stretched. It does just because the law says something in the Constitution does not mean you have to follow the exact same thing as it says in the Constitution, as long as it is necessary and proper and rational to the law in the Constitution. Next, we have the Commerce Clause in Article 1, Section 8, and it is to regulate money or goods between the states, and which is international, interstate, and other countries, which is international. Next, we'll be covering the Full Faith and Credit Clause, which is in Article 1, Section 1, and it is basically states have to respect each other. So if I live in Virginia and I get married in Virginia, and me and my spouse want to move to New York, then I am still legally married in New York. Next, we'll be covering the habeas corpus in Article 1, Section 9, Clause 6, and basically I have this little thing called liberty. So if my liberty is taken away or my freedom is taken away by me going to jail, I have the right to know why, and I have the right to go to a court and ask why am I being sent to jail. Next, we have the Bill of Attainders, which is in Article 1, Section 9, Clause 3. And basically, I cannot go to jail without a trail and without a reason why. So basically, I cannot make a cake without the ingredients. Next, we have the Ex Post Facto Law, which is in Article 1, Section 10. And that's basically saying if someone changes the punishment for a law that I have committed, then I have to follow the new punishment. So it's saying that if I have a rule and someone makes a new rule to that rule, I no longer follow the old rule, but I start to follow the new rule. So that is all for our clauses. Next, we'll be covering majority and supermajority, which is basically when we have votes for things. So like voting for laws or voting for treaties or voting for impeachment or anything of that nature. So first thing we're going to cover is the presidential veto, and it is when the president overturns a bill because he or she has objections. So 2/3 of the legislative branch can cancel a veto, and once canceled, the bill cannot be returned to Senate according to Article 1, Section 7. Next, we're going to cover ratifying treaties, which gives consent to an agreement between the countries, and 2/3 of the Senate can ratify a treaty according to Article 2, Section 2. Next, we're going to cover impeachment of the president, and impeachment means to bring charges against the president for committing a crime, such as bribery, treason, etc. And 2/3 of the House of Representatives has the power to impeach the president, but 2/3 of the Senate has the power to remove the president from office. Impeachment does not mean removing the president from office, but it is a high chance that you can be removed from the office if you are impeached. Next, we have Supreme Court, which is done by the POTUS, and the POTUS has the power to recommend people to sit on the Supreme Court, but 2/3 of the Senate has the power to accept or reject anyone that the president has recommended for seating on the Supreme Court. That is all for majority and supermajority, and next we'll be covering the amendments. So we're going to run through this very, very quickly. There's listed in the Constitution, and there are 27 amendments that the United States follows. The first 10 are the Bill of Rights, and number 1 is freedom of speech, expression, religion, etc., etc. Next is the right to bear arms or carry fire weapons. Number 3 is housing soldiers without the consent or quartering soldiers. Number 4 is search procedures without warrant, which means you cannot search me or my house or my car or anything like that without a warrant for my arrest. Number 5 is I cannot be arrested without a reason, which goes back to habeas corpus and is also the taking clause. Number 6 is right to a fair and speedy trial. Number 7 is jury trial in a civil lawsuit, which means if I get sued for something, I have the right to go to court for it. Number 8 is no cruel or unusual punishment. Number 9 is rights not mentioned in the Constitution is a delegated right, which means it is a shared right between the federal and state laws. Number 10 is the state rights, so non-federal rights is state rights. Next is number 11, which means states cannot sue other states, which goes a little bit, it reflects a little bit on the full faith and credit clause because other states has to respect each other. Number 12 is separate votes must be held for the president and the vice president. Just like if you have a set of twins, you have to buy different clothes for the twins because they're two different people. Same thing goes back to the president and vice president. Just because they're similar in a way does not mean they get the same things. So they have to have two different elections for the president and the vice president. Number 13, 14, and 15 go together because they all have something to do with African American rights. So 13 abolished slavery, 14 protected people of their natural rights, or it's called the due process, and African American males have the right to vote in the 15th Amendment. Due process is basically you cannot deprive me of my natural rights, which is life, liberty, and property, and that has a lot to do with number 14. Number 16 is federal income tax, which means Congress can lay and collect taxes. Number 17 is the senator is elected by the people, and that senator gets one vote in the election. And before the people started voting for the senators were chosen by the state legislature. Number 18, which was later repealed by number 21, prohibits the sale and production of alcohol. So there was no alcohol that could be sold or produced. Number 19 gave women the right to vote. Number 20, it went over the terms in the office for a president and the vice president, which is both 4 years. Number 21 allowed the sale and production of alcohol, which went totally against number 18. And the way you can remember number 18 and number 21 is those are the legal drinking ages, 18 for New Orleans and 21 for the rest of the states in the United States. Number 22 is a president cannot get no more than 2 terms, which is what Barack Obama did. So after this term he has served, he cannot run anymore for president because he was the 44th and 45th president of the United States. Number 23 states that the District of Columbia is the official seating of the government, which District of Columbia is Washington, D.C., and the Washington Monument, the White House, etc. is based in District of Columbia or Washington, D.C. Number 24, is basically saying citizens can vote for the president and the vice president even though they did not pay a poll tax. Number 25 is the presidential succession, which means that if the president is removed from office or something happens to the president, he is no longer in office, the vice president becomes the new president. Number 26 says the new voting age is 18. And number 27 is the congressional compensation, which means that if Congress gets a raise, he or she cannot receive their raise until the next term. And that is all for the amendments. Here are my resources, and I would like to thank you guys for watching this video. I hope you learned something, and yeah, see you next time.